The morning sun had barely risen when Amina, a hard-working maid, began her daily chores in the grand mansion of Madame Evelyn. For 5 years, Amina had served the family with honesty and dedication. She was known throughout the village for her kindness and quiet nature. Madame Evelyn trusted her with every corner of the house, believing she would never betray that trust. One afternoon, Madame Evelyn welcomed her closest friend, Clara, into the mansion. The two women rarely met without sending Amina away, but this time they assumed she had gone to the market. Unknown to them, Amina had returned early after discovering the market was closed because of heavy rain. As she entered through the back door carrying an empty basket, she heard hushed voices coming from the sitting room. She had no intention of listening, but one sentence stopped her in her tracks. "If anyone finds out about the hidden documents, everything we've built will fall apart," Clara whispered. Amina froze. She quietly stepped behind the hallway curtain, unsure whether to leave or stay. Madame Evelyn replied with a nervous voice, "Don't worry. No one knows the papers are hidden beneath the old wooden chest. Once the land transfer is complete, the villagers will never be able to claim it back." Amina's heart raced. She couldn't believe what she had heard. The land the women spoke about belonged to the villagers, many of whom struggled to feed their families. If the documents were real, innocent people would lose everything. Before Amina could move, she accidentally dropped the metal spoon she was carrying. It clattered loudly across the floor. Silence filled the house. Madame Evelyn quickly opened the door and stared at Amina with suspicious eyes. "How long have you been standing there?" she demanded. Amina lowered her head. "I only returned a few moments ago, madam." Clara exchanged a worried glance with Evelyn. Neither of them believed her. Madame Evelyn forced a smile, but her voice had become cold. "I hope you understand that some conversations are not meant for servants." Amina nodded quietly, yet deep inside, fear had replaced her usual peace. She realized she had stumbled upon a secret powerful enough to change many lives. That evening, while cleaning the dining room, she noticed Madame Evelyn watching her every move. Even Clara, before leaving, whispered something into Evelyn's ear while pointing toward Amina. The young maid suddenly understood that her life would never be the same again. She had become the only witness to a dangerous secret, and she didn't know whether staying silent would protect her, or place her in even greater danger. As darkness covered the village, Amina looked out of her small bedroom window and prayed for wisdom. She knew that by sunrise, she would have to make a choice that could change not only her own future but the fate of the entire village. Amina barely slept that night. Every sound outside her small room made her jump. She kept replaying Madame Evelyn's words in her mind. If the hidden documents were real, the villagers would lose the farmland their families had cultivated for generations. Yet speaking out could cost her job, or even her life. The next morning, Madame Evelyn acted unusually kind. She prepared a large breakfast and even handed Amina a small bag of money. "You've served me faithfully for years," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Perhaps it's time you visited your relatives in another village for a few weeks." Amina immediately understood. This wasn't generosity, it was an attempt to send her away before she could tell anyone what she had overheard. "Thank you, madam," Amina replied politely. "But my family is here. I have nowhere else to go." Madame Evelyn's smile disappeared. "Think carefully," she warned. "Sometimes curiosity brings unnecessary trouble." The warning stayed with Amina all day. As she swept the courtyard, she noticed two unfamiliar men standing outside the gate. They spoke briefly with Madame Evelyn before leaving. Their serious expressions filled Amina with fear. That evening, Amina decided she could no longer remain silent. She secretly visited old Chief Kofi, the respected village elder known for his wisdom and fairness. She did not accuse anyone. Instead, she carefully explained everything she had heard and begged him to investigate before it was too late. Chief Kofi listened without interrupting. "If what you say is true," he said slowly, "we must act with wisdom, not anger. Truth is strongest when supported by evidence." The following morning, the chief gathered several trusted elders. Together they visited Madame Evelyn's mansion under the excuse of discussing an upcoming village celebration. While Madame Evelyn entertained the guests, one elder quietly examined the old storage room. Beneath the heavy wooden chest, exactly where Amina had heard Clara mention, he discovered a locked metal box. Madame Evelyn's face turned pale. When the box was opened, everyone fell silent. Inside were official land documents bearing forged signatures and false ownership records. The papers showed a plan to seize the villagers' ancestral farmland and sell it to a wealthy businessman from the city. Clara arrived moments later, only to find the truth already exposed. The villagers gathered outside the mansion as news spread quickly through the community. Some cried with relief while others looked at Amina with gratitude. Had she remained silent, hundreds of families might have lost everything they owned. Chief Kofi turned toward Amina and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. Today, this young woman proved that courage does not belong only to the rich or the powerful. Sometimes the bravest heart is found in the humblest servant. Madame Evelyn lowered her head in shame, knowing that the secret she had tried so hard to protect had finally come to light. But the greatest consequences were still waiting to come. By sunrise, the entire village had gathered beneath the great baobab tree where important matters were always settled. Chief Kofi stood before the crowd, holding the forged land documents high for everyone to see. The evidence was undeniable. Madame Evelyn and her best friend, Clara, had secretly planned to steal the villagers' ancestral land for their own wealth. Madame Evelyn stepped forward with tears in her eyes. The proud woman who had once walked confidently through the village could no longer meet anyone's gaze. "I made a terrible mistake," she admitted softly. "Greed blinded me, and I allowed fear to control my choices. I never imagined my actions would hurt so many innocent people." Clara, however, refused to confess. She insisted that the documents had been misunderstood and blamed everything on Amina. "She's only a servant," Clara shouted. "Why would you believe her over us?" The villagers remained silent until an elderly clerk from the district office arrived. He had been summoned by Chief Kofi after the documents were discovered. After carefully examining every page, he confirmed that the signatures had been forged and the papers were completely illegal. "There is no doubt," the clerk declared. "These documents were created to deceive the rightful owners of this land." Clara's confidence vanished instantly. Realizing there was no escape, she lowered her head in defeat. The local authorities were informed, and both women were ordered to answer for their actions before the law. As the days passed, the stolen documents were destroyed, and the villagers received official confirmation that their land belonged to them once again. Families celebrated with songs, dancing, and prayers of gratitude. Children ran freely across the fields their ancestors had protected for generations. Chief Kofi invited Amina to stand beside him before the entire community. "My daughter," he said warmly, "many people believe courage belongs to those with wealth or power. But today, you have shown us that true courage comes from an honest heart." The villagers applauded loudly. Some offered Amina gifts, while others thanked her with tears in their eyes. Though she accepted their gratitude, she smiled humbly. "I only did what was right," she replied. "If we remain silent when we witness injustice, then we become part of it." Months later, Madame Evelyn returned to the village after accepting responsibility for her actions. She apologized publicly to every family she had wronged and donated much of her remaining wealth to repair the village school and health clinic. Although trust would take time to rebuild, her sincere repentance marked the beginning of a new chapter. Amina chose to leave domestic service and start a small tailoring business with the support of the villagers. Her honesty earned her respect far beyond the village, and people traveled from neighboring communities to hear the story of the brave maid who saved an entire village with nothing more than truth and courage. Moral of the story: no secret built on greed can remain hidden forever. Honesty, courage, and standing up for what is right will always shine brighter than lies and deception.